There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello, BookTube. I'm Shawn, the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel. Here I am with the book review, Janet Frame's novel Towards Another Summer. Written in 1963, but the author felt was so personally revealing that she would not allow it to be published in her lifetime. So it was not published until 2007. It's my first anything by Janet Frame. I became interested in Janet Frame from the novel about her life, based on her autobiography, An Angel at My Table, and have always wanted to read something by her, and now I finally have. I really liked this novel. In fact, there were things about it that I really loved. I couldn't give it 5 stars because of some things I didn't care for, but it was an enthusiastic 4-star read for me, and I do recommend it to you. It's obviously very autobiographical, so it's set in the UK. The protagonist, a New Zealand writer living in London, is very eccentric, under the care of a psychiatrist, has a wonderful, rich interior life, but lives a very solitary life. She meets some other New Zealanders living in the countryside of the UK, and they want her to come and visit them, leaving London, going out to this rinky-dink little place. And she finally relents and goes. She spends a couple nights with them and comes back a half day early. And that, boys and girls, is the sum total of this novel in terms of plot. If plot is important to you and what I've just described doesn't sound like a book that you would enjoy, this probably wouldn't be for you. But I really enjoyed the small moments and the rich interior life of the protagonist, and I didn't need a bunch of stuff to happen. Grace is our protagonist, the New Zealand novelist living in London, and she is one of the most awkward people in literature. And I related to her so much that I'm not sure I'm going to allow this video to be published until after my death, because I really related to her social awkwardness and feeling tongue-tied and being intimidated in certain social situations that quote-unquote normal people have no trouble with. But meanwhile, she's going down interior rabbit holes of memory and imagination and fantasy. And one of the things that she is fantasizing about, and the reader can judge whether this is mental illness or creative flights of fancy, excuse the pun, because of what I'm about to reveal, I realize I've just made a bad pun, flights of fancy, hold that thought. She feels that she is not a human being, that she is a migratory bird. And that line of thinking, those imaginings, flow throughout the novel, and that got a little old for me. I mean, it wasn't like she spent 30 pages of the novel thinking about it, but it came up enough, and by the end I was thinking, I don't really care about that part of the story. But I did really connect with so much else about her indwelling narratives that were in such sharp contrast to how stilted and brittle she was socially with her hosts, this young New Zealander couple in the English countryside with small children. She remembers a lot about childhood in New Zealand, and much of that was interesting. Not all of it. I thought that the novel didn't need a lot of the mundane childhood memories. There were things that all of us experienced in childhood that were explored at too great a length, I thought, but I'm not somebody who likes reading too much about childhood. People that are more interested in children, I like children, but I don't know exactly how to say this, but some of the childhood memories were too banal for me. Let's just put it that way. Others about her childhood and her life growing up in New Zealand, father being a railroad engineer, were fascinating. But what I loved the most was that contrast between how awkward she was and her rich interior life, and I related to quite a bit about that. Except I'm not a New Zealander and I'm not a writer. The other thing, and this is largely connected with the reminiscing that she does, instead of having interesting conversation with her hosts, she does a lot of reminiscing to herself, and we read about all that. And a lot of that was about the songs of her childhood, and the lyrics were reproduced, and that's one of my pet peeves about reading. Don't put song lyrics or poetry in my fiction. I refuse to read it, and I just skip over it, because it's silly. Get it out of my fiction. That's a pet peeve that I don't think many people share, so just putting that out there, that also detracted. But Let me just finish, because I don't want to talk you out of trying this novel. There was so much about it, like I hope I have expressed, that I really enjoyed. She was so nervous to interact with her host's young children. And I'm going to read you a short scene near the end of her visit that shows her apprehensiveness and where all of that anxiety ends up going in a conversation with the young daughter, who I think is about 4 or 5. So our protagonist is Grace, and the daughter is Sarah. Before going upstairs, Grace went to the sitting room to replace a book. Last night's fire lay dead in the grate. The room was deserted, the empty chairs drawn close to the fire. Scattered sheets of Friday's and Saturday's newspaper spoke, as surely as trampled bus tickets on a wet street, of the aftermath of journeys among people. Grace sat in one of the chairs. The door opened softly, and Sarah came in with her spoon angels and her baby Jesus restored to favor. She had come to attend the ceremony which children love, but which they have few opportunities to experience, the private conference with the visitor. Sarah sat down, carefully, and put her babies on the chair beside her. "There's nobody in this room now," she said, emphasizing their privacy. "No." Both knew that she meant other people. "Mummy and Daddy sit in here at night when we're in bed, but there's nobody here now. Do you like my angels?" She held for Grace's inspection the 2 teaspoons wrapped in their piece of ragged toweling. Their oval faces shone where she had polished them. "I don't know. I think I like them. Are they asleep?" "No, they're awake. They're in bed, but they're awake. Baby Jesus is asleep." "Is he?" "She." "Sorry, I mean she." "Well, I meant he, but if you say so, it's she. She looks fast asleep." "She is fast asleep. Are you going away today?" "Yes, in the train, this afternoon." "Are you coming again to stay with us?" "Well, I suppose." "I want you to come and stay with us again. Will you come to stay with us again?" "Yes," Grace said quickly. Her heart was beating fast, with gratitude, love, sympathy, and the extra pleasure provided by a conference ritual carried out by a cunning little strategist, as expert in diplomacy as a general wining and dining with the enemy on a battlefield strewn with corpses. "Yes," Sarah repeated, "I want you to come here again." The conference was over. Gravely they went from the room, shutting the door carefully behind them, and Sarah, running on ahead to the kitchen, glanced back at Grace with that metallic, abolishing look which children have when contact has been made, treaties signed. And if that scene speaks to you, please give Janet Frame's novel Towards Another Summer a try. Thanks for watching.